How do you scope projects in management consulting? Hi everyone, my name is Johannes and welcome to Mastering Consulting. On this channel, I want to share my own experience from my own journey in management consulting to help you to become successful management consulting while also living a balanced life. And if you're new to this channel, then please subscribe to it. Also ring the bell and leave a thumb up. This will help you that you don't miss any new video that can help you to become more successful in consulting. And today we have a very interesting topic. We will talk about how to scope projects in management consulting. And the first time when I was faced with the question how to scope projects in management consulting, I was actually a senior consultant, and it was the time when I, for the first time, had to structure my own stream. And when I sat down and really tried to scope the project, I really was struggling because I didn't really have a very good framework that I could use and that would help me to scope the project in a very short and efficient way. Well, this changed because I fortunately read a book called Correct It. It's written by an HEC professor and by an ex-McKinsey partner. And in this book, they also talk about a framework that they propose to structure projects. And this is the so-called TOSCA framework. And the TOSCA framework consists of 5 steps. It first says that you have to identify the trouble, so the problem. Then it second says that you have to identify the owner, so who's responsible for solving this problem. Third, you have to define success, so what does a successful outcome look like. It fourth defines the constraints, so what kind of limitations do you have in your project. And fifth, it defines the most important actors, so who are your most important stakeholders in a project. And back then I tried to scope and structure my project along those 5 core questions, and this really helped me to kind of get a good overview of the project. It gave me a good overview and a good understanding what I wanted to achieve in my stream. And since then I use this framework all the time if I have to scope projects, especially now as a project manager. But let's go through the TOSCA framework step by step and talk about each of those 5 core questions that will help you to scope your consulting project. So the first question is the trouble. So it's very important that at the beginning of each consulting project, you really try to understand what the actual problem is. So just to remember, a consulting team is always hired so that they solve a business problem. So the client has a problem, they hire a team, and at the end of the project, they have a solution. So as a consulting team, it's very, very crucial at the very beginning to really understand what the actual problem is. And you have to be aware that very often the real problem is not the problem that the client thinks that he or she has. So especially during the first phase of your project, it's very, very important that you ask a lot of questions, that you really do a lot of research, and that you really try to understand the current situation and to understand why the company has a certain problem and what the reason for that really is. So common problems that companies usually have is that they are not profitable anymore, that they have maybe decreasing revenues, that they have increasing costs, or maybe that they want to change something in their organization because it's not efficient anymore. So the second question is, who is the owner? So who is responsible of solving this problem within the company? And very often in a company, there is one design person who is responsible for the entire project. And this is typically your project sponsor. So in most consulting projects, this is the top management. So this could be the CEO, the COO, or CFO, or any other C-level position. Sometimes even if we talk or work together with smaller companies, this could also be the owner. Or if we work with very large companies in consulting, this could also be, for example, a division head or something in the C-1 or C-2 level. And as a consultant, it's really, really important to understand who the owner is, because that is your main stakeholder. And you really should focus on working as good as you can for the owner of the project, because at the end, this is the person who probably hires you, and it's very, very important to make sure that this person is satisfied and that you as a consulting team help the owner to solve the problem. The third question is, what could a potential success of the project look like. And in consulting, it's always very, very important that you start with the end in mind, because usually you don't have a lot of time, and it makes things much more efficient if you have a very clear idea about what a potential solution could look like. And it also helps you to manage the expectations with your main stakeholder. So you really should think about, okay, what are the end results of the project? Typically in consulting, we talk about deliverables. So a deliverable might be, for example, a business case, it might be a presentation, it might be a certain type of recommendation. And it's very, very important that from the beginning on, you are very clear about what success looks like, so that you can manage expectations and structure your work process as efficient as possible. So for example, if your project is that you want to find ways to increase profitability, your end success could be, okay, we identify very concrete measures to increase profitability by 5% over the next 5 years. So this could be a potential success that you define upfront that helps you to communicate to your stakeholders. And the fourth question is, what are constraints within your project? And be aware that a company always operates with limited resources, and this could be in terms of financial resources, but also in terms of human capital. Okay, and you have to be aware of that if you start a project. And why is this so important? It is important because as a consultant, you want to recommend solutions that the client actually can implement. Because if you recommend solutions for which the client, for example, needs a certain amount of financial resources, but the client doesn't have the resources, your solution or your proposed solution is actually very useless because the client cannot implement it anyway. So to stick with our example, if your project success is that you identify measures to increase revenue by 5% over the next 5 years, and the client only has an investment budget for, let's say, 20 million euros, and you recommend measures that require a investment budget of, let's say, 60 million euros, obviously this solution is not feasible. So it's very important to ask about limiting factors, both financially, but also in terms of human resources, but also sometimes in terms of time, politics, or philosophy. So it's very important to know about that upfront. So actively ask about that in order to scope the project in the right way. And the fifth question is, who are your actors? So who are the most important stakeholder that you should be aware of? Of course, at the beginning we said that we have the owner, and this is your main stakeholder, but there are many other stakeholders who have an important impact on your project as well. And be aware that those people, those stakeholders, can have a very large impact if your project will be successful or not. So typical stakeholders could be the owner, people in the management, also people maybe on the middle management or even operational people. It could be the workers' union, it could also be the media. So there are many different types of potential stakeholders that you have within a project. And what you should do from a very, very beginning is to make a list of all those important stakeholders, because this helps you in a consulting project from the very, very beginning on to manage those stakeholders and to make sure that they support your project and also contribute to the success of your project. So those are 5 very important questions that you should ask yourself if you scope a project. So before you start working on a project, make sure that you know about those 5 questions. And this is not only relevant for project managers who are really responsible for the scoping, this is also very important for people who are working on a project, like consultants, but even interns or experts, because it really, really helps you to work efficiently in a project if you know these 5 core questions and if you can answer them. Of course, I'm interested what other questions you think are important if you want to scope a project in management consulting, so please leave a comment below. Also, if you like the video, then please make sure to subscribe, also leave a thumb up and hit the bell. This will help you that you don't miss any new video that will help you to be successful in management consulting. So with that being said, I want to thank you for your time. Hope you have a successful day and hope to see you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.